Good afternoon, Vladimir, Farzana, and Tia, and a very warm welcome all the participants who have logged in and are listening to us. We welcome you to the Supply Chain APAC web event. We have around 40 minutes to have a meaningful discussion, and what I would like to start with is sourcing or purchasing has been a major component of a corporate expense whenever you look at it. For a manufacturing firm, close to around 80% of your expenses come from the procurement function. And procurement function, therefore, directly has impact on the way the supply chains are organized, on the way responsible supply sourcing is carried out. We are today talking about not only ethical manufacturing, we are also talking about ethical sourcing. We are talking about the responsibility towards a green supply chain. We are talking about how sourcing can elevate itself from being a function which in the traditional sense of the world, procurement was considered as one of the support functions to an organization, while the plan, make, do forms the core functions. So procurement along with HR and finance were considered as support functions to the manufacturing process. Today, we need to see how we can elevate this to a core function itself within an organization, because a lot of what we talked about throughout the day in terms of responsive, are all a function of also procurement. I thank Farzana, Tia, and Vladimir for sparing the time to discuss this with us. If I could start with Vladimir, what I would like is that in the next 2 or 3 minutes, I would like you to sum up your focus and your opinion on the topic, and then we could probably get on with a couple of questions and then see if we can open it up for the audience, right? So Vladimir, if you could have you first.
Okay, thank you very much. So my name is Vladimir, and I'm based in Singapore, managing sourcing procurement, which you say support functions, but we would like to look at it as the strategic function, right?
Yes.
Because we are addressing one of the biggest part of the corporate expense.
Yes.
I think every function believes it is the strategic functions when they talk about their own functions. But okay, I think that you said a lot, and there will be questions which we'll answer. I have really short summary, or if we talk about the sustainability or responsible procurement, the module sounds like, okay, same as for the COVID or situation or any other disaster, the non-sustainable abuse of the environment or human rights. We are in all of this together, right? No country or nation in isolation. We have to all change our mindsets to really overcome that. And the short sentence is like, okay, sustainability is not expensive. It is just a mindset shift.
Thank you, Vladimir. Farzana, if you could come in with your opening remark. I think you're on mute. You're still on mute.
Sorry about that. I was having technical problem. Hi, everyone. Good day, good evening, good morning. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Farzana. I am currently working with Unilever in a global scope for collaborative manufacturing. These are the manufacturing facilities and operation who are non-Unilever companies and factories servicing our customers along with us. Globally, the purposeful procurement is in our agenda and core, because we strongly believe purposeful companies grow, purposeful people thrive, and purposeful brand have a lasting impact on people and economy. So purposeful procurement is really one of the core values in the organization and the team I work. And I'm very happy to join and talk about it with you all. Look forward to our discussion.
Thank you, Farzana. Tia, if you could.
Okay, I am Tia Mohan. Just a small introduction. I've been a logistician for more than 20 years, both sides of the spectrum, on the supply side and the procurement side. And as we know, the last 12 months or so brought the entire supply chain function and the procurement function, and especially the logistics function, into sharp focus, because especially for manufacturing companies, there was a situation where the whole process of manufacturing was at stake because there were lockdowns everywhere. You did not know if your suppliers would be able to send out material, which pretty much go into your assembly lines. And so, going back to your opening remark about the fact, Girish, that initially procurement was seen as a support function. If nothing else, the last 12 months have shown just how intrinsic it is to the health of an organization. Because in the absence of this function, basically, we wouldn't be getting anything out to our customers. I'm fortunate to be part of a company which actually saw the good side of the epidemic in terms of demand for our products, because everybody was home and everybody wanted better appliances. But having said that, I think when you talk about procurement with responsible procurement and responsible sourcing, 2 or 3 really important things that come out for me, having seen what's transpired in the last 12 months, is that because the disruptions were so severe, it was very easy to get buffeted by the tailwinds or the headwinds. So different functions would be reacting to whatever is the most urgent crisis facing their function. And so companies which were able to give across a standard guideline or communicate with all the people who are part of the company on any function about what are the North Stars which would guide how the company is going to work in these months, that is what has resulted in sustainable and responsible sourcing, at least for us. Responsibility starts with responsibility to the environment. I mean, that is absolutely non-negotiable. Responsibility to our stakeholders, whether it's the end consumers, you also have a responsibility to your suppliers. So that is a very intrinsic part of responsible sourcing as well. And seeing the whole journey towards managing not only this crisis, but going forward, doing things better, learning from the disruptions, taking along with you whoever is part of your journey would be very important. So for us, it's very important that our suppliers they know that their interests are looked after. Our internal stakeholders know that there is an understanding about what are the crises they are facing, and the company comes together to face those together, and trying to minimize the various imbalances that might be within functions, the silos that everybody spoke about earlier, in the best way possible to deliver value to the consumer, deliver value to all the stakeholders, and at the same time be good to the environment. So that, in short, is what my understanding is of responsible and good sourcing.
Thank you. Oh, that's interesting. If I could take this to Farzana and probably check with you on it. We have heard about supply chain design versus planning. We have heard about how technology can change or bring in efficiencies, and why technology needs to be in the DNA of the organization as far as transactional efficiencies and data flow efficiencies are concerned. However, when we look back at disruptions, and then as Tia was just talking about the disruptions we faced in the last year, and how sourcing stepped up to the game, these disruptions put a huge amount of pressure on our supply networks. How do you manage supplier relationships when you are under pressure?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things we need to take as a given. First, the disruptions are going to be ongoing. And that is that we need to inherit that anything that is constant, it's going to be natural, unnatural, and various technological or other types of disruption. The second thing we need to accept as a community is we are more and more globally integrated community at this point than ever before. It is not only China for China or Europe for Europe anymore. We are very much integrated global supply chain network. If not for our tier 1 to tier 3 to tier 4, we are very much integrated where any disruption in any node can impact our overall supply chain and shake it. So now what do we do to really continue servicing our customers while maintaining relationship with suppliers through this disruption? First and foremost is constant communication and understanding state of union, where they are and how they are managing and what kind of support we can engage. Being in Unilever, we have a responsibility to be in that support role for our suppliers. So the communication with a supplier on a regular and continuous basis is the first and foremost. How are you doing? What's your sourcing looking like? What is your biggest challenges? Is the cash flow? Is the logistics challenge, and so on and so forth. Second thing that we need to have is a partnership relationship and conversation. Very often we have seen it is a more of a give, take relationship with our supplier rather than partnership. So we really need to transform our relationship with supplier into the partnership mode. And the last thing is we need to have a strategic alignment on the goals. Look, if the purposeful, responsible, sustainable sourcing is our agenda as an organization, the suppliers that we work with and suppliers that we engage a relationship with, it's very important to make sure that they have the same agenda on their strategy, on their vision, and in their goals. Because if they're misaligned on their agenda, it's more of a profit driven and other priorities there, we will always have a misalignment. And whether we have communication, whether we have partnership relationship, we will not deliver together. So strategic alignment, partnership approach in the relationship management, and a very constructive ongoing communication, I think the key to a robust and strengthened relationship with the suppliers. And we have seen some great success through those three elements in there.
Yes. That's interesting. Vladimir, if I could take this back to you and ask you of this. One of the things that Farzana talked about was essentially how the key to building supplier relationships is alignment and communication. How do we do this in an era when the traditional processes have changed? There used to be a time before you onboard a vendor or a supplier, you used to have a long inspection routine and process that was there. Given what's happening today in the world, how do you adapt your processes to the new world we are living in?
But okay, I would say that in the nutshell, in the principles, nothing changed, right? Previous era, new norm, post-COVID time, post-COVID time, they would be all the same. Then okay, maybe the tools we use are different, and we are now more digitalizing. Okay, and these things are even speeding up decisions or the traditional processes. But I would like still to emphasize, what Farzana was saying, that communication is the key. So communication. So, and because the corporates are not doing business, right? It is human beings who are doing business with each other. And how I look at it, the first interaction, like between the two individuals, the first 10 seconds, you make your decision about the person already, right? You label person, same, you are representing an organization, and you have to translate to your partner or future partner what culture your organization is willing to project. Then all the exchanges, even prior the contract signature, should be smoothened. Okay, then it formalized and smoothened so that we have the proper onboarding of a supplier as well. Then to avoid any issues in the future and building, we're talking about building of that relationship. Really need to clearly, robustly build the contract, right? So that nobody is, everyone is able to express all the needs and expectations on the deliverables further. What's more important is even the sharing of the benefits and successes. I think if I look forward for a project more forward, then if we're in alignment between each other on different levels, on the bottom level, on the C level, we are contributing, or the best case scenario is to try to contribute to each other's business development, right? I am a consumer or customer of a vendor. I'm thinking of how I can help my partner to grow their business. They should think the same way. And then that will lead to a really improvement and the partnership, a trusted partnership. I have an example here, just a quick example on particularly Essilor company. Okay, we do the B2C business and we do B2B business, the eyewear, sunglasses and the prescription glasses, and we did the audit, external audit of the service perception. So how our B2B customers are perceiving the service level, quality of the product and service in general. And it appears that 50% of the perception of the service and quality. Talk about it. I'm talking about the holistically quality of the product and everything experience. 50% of that is the delivery experience. So then surely the partner we have partnered in the country is representing our company and really helping us to develop the business. If this is the right partner, and the partner understands how he needs to talk to our customers, not their customers, our customers.
Yeah. Thanks, Vladimir. If I take this question across to Tia, we talked about how procurement today has become a very strategic input into the organization, how it stepped its game up. How can we create value in a complex and volatile supply chain?
I think the first step in that, Girish, would be to go away from, and I think most companies are already doing that, in recognizing that you move away from KPIs which just work around cost reduction and profitability and keeping the cost side under control so that you can work on your margins. I mean, that was, I think, a very simplistic and outdated way of looking at things. Increasingly, companies are defining value with respect to larger goals. So there's value in, and going to Farzana's point, it's so important that when we are talking to our suppliers, we are aligned on these concepts. That because ultimately we will not get the value we seek unless our suppliers are in for the ride with us. So you define value with commonality on the firstly of course the larger the environment. Secondly, the workplace, the standards of workplace, they have to be aligned. There are no cutting corners about how people are treated in the companies that work with us. There has to be, you have to let your suppliers know, at least, make it clear that we place value on innovation, right? So what can we do better? How close are we to doing better for what our end consumers want? And then communicate that back to our suppliers so that they're also working step in step with us on innovation. And then, of course, a certain amount also comes from scale. That you move away from a system of playing one supplier against the other in terms of just how much better can you do on the negotiation, and you identify the long-term gains to you as a company in case you have scale with a certain supplier. Will he be willing to go to the mat for you when things really go wrong? And I think all of us in our respective companies would have seen that last year, that when you create that environment where you are aligned that these are the things that matter, then when the chips are down and nothing seems to be moving, it's those suppliers who will step up for you in your attempt to make things work. So I think it's defining those real key aspects of what the expectations are. How are we being better for our end consumers? How are we being better for the environment? And of course, we want you as a supplier in on the ride. It's a journey that we'll take with you. So, let's do it together, whether it's innovation, whether it's sustainability, whether it's scale, and understand and letting them know, as Farzana said, that we are there. It's not that it's a stopgap 2-year contract. The minute that ends, we go in for the next negotiation and finish it off. So I would say those would be the major areas where we could look at in terms of value in the really complex supply chain world we live in.
Yes, Farzana, if I were to bring that back to you, we all talked about horizontal collaboration, where we will try and collaborate across the chain. An equally important function is the vertical collaboration or within the organization. What are your comments on that, and how do you see that evolving?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Look, I will go back to what I started in my introductory comment as brands with purpose. Yeah. So when I'm having a conversation with marketing, sales, divisions, categories, and they have our colleagues, our partner in this journey within organization vertically, have an agenda to deliver, because we want to leave an impact with our consumer and end customers, right? And it has to be a fully traceable commitment and compliance to say this brand is a purposeful brand generated from a sustainable sourcing and produced from a reasonable or responsible manufacturing, whether it's labor, whether it's living wage, whether it's child labor, whether it's diversity and inclusion, whether it's non-deforested sourcing mechanism for packaging, whether it's a recyclable plastic, all these agenda, right? The brands come in with a purpose and they put them on the label, and we in supply chain, we in procurement enable that. So the conversation become very, very, what I say is aligned, because we are working for the same purpose of delivering a good for the sales and marketing team and for the stakeholders to our consumer that will protect and really support the agenda that is on that label, on that brand. And then if we come back to what Tia said, that yeah, it's not only just savings, but there has to be a different innovation or value or purpose behind it. What I call is selling that purpose gets easy because it supports the brand commitment to the market. And innovation is a great place for us to partner and bring that conversation to our vertical stakeholders, because growth is important, innovation is important, sustainable branding is important, and procurement can come in there with the solution with our suppliers to make all three happen. So yeah, if we align what is the brand is trying to do and the sales and commercial team trying to do, market penetration, growth, new product, new innovation, and we become the enabler using our supplier, it's an easy conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Interesting. Vladimir, if I were to bring these points of view across to you, we talked about one of the things we cannot escape when you are in procurement or in any aspect of supply chain is a cost pressure. Sustainability, on the other hand, moves in an opposite direction. It tries to push up the bottom line in terms of financial bottom line, but today we are also talking about the triple bottom line, where we are talking about environment, society, and financial gains to the organization. How do we balance these? And to balance these, what should change in our approach itself?
I think, okay, first of all, there would be always a debate like that, and it should be always balanced. There is no answer, right? Simple answer. But I would say that the problem of the sustainability and non-sustainable consumption is coming from the fact that human life is really short, and we cannot see the impact, real impact on the planet, environment, all that. And at the same time, corporates are exploiting the resources to deliver the shareholders' value, and this is not aligned with the government and the consumers, who are then suffering and bearing the cost, and not a good environment after that, right? I think that there are good companies, right? At the cutting edge companies like Unilever or Essilor who really commit itself to the market, to investors and to consumers to produce the goods and services in a sustainable way, right? But I think that today there are not enough companies like that to really change the balance. And this still requires cost, even though our marketing is trying to create the categories and create more value into these products or this approach. But I think that really to address that properly, there should be double way, bottom up and top down. So without the regulators who really set the rules of the game and equalize everyone, we cannot do, but only with that also we cannot improve drastically. Also we need a bottom-up approach where consumer or customer and consumer expect and push the corporates to do that. Then the corporates will be forced to balance and to manage costs, extra costs needed to versus the requirements from the regulators and consumers to compete, because otherwise they will start to miss the competition. So consumer and the regulators are the key here. So us.
Consumers and regulators are the key to balancing sustainability versus cost pressures. Tia, if I bring this question out to you again, you talked about, it's not about savings, but the organization expects to a large extent, because to be fair, that's the largest single, this department takes around 80% of the spend. It is but that natural that you should have this pressure. The question is, what should we change to make this a more balanced approach? Bring in bring in bottom line that way.
Yes, and actually, because I'm very proud to be part of a company that walks the talk. I would go directly to what Vladimir just said. What we've seen is that when you're talking about keeping costs under control is a given. You just you just have to do it. This is part of our DNA. We do it, and we have to be reminded that there are other things that occasionally also you need to be told and trained that you look beyond the cost bit. But having said that, when we're talking about communication, it's not just communication with the suppliers who are on the journey with us. My company has very successfully communicated very well with our end consumers. So what we've seen is that if you tell an end consumer that we are creating, we are using the best kind of technology and the best kind of design to give you a product or a washing machine which will make your clothes last longer, use less water. If you're effectively communicating that to your end consumer, they're going to pay for it. So they're more than happy to also be part of the process where they foot the bill for doing something better, for better technology, for being kinder to the environment, for using less water in each cycle of wash that they do. And this is not something, this is statistically borne out also by us, that increasingly we are also talking to our end consumers about Electrolux, of course, is one of the world leaders in ovens and cooking in the whole cooking arena. And we're talking about having more sustainable approach to eating. So we are going a step beyond just hearing from the customer or getting information from them about what they'd like better. And of course we work on that all the time. It's really important for us. But it's a two-way communication where we're also taking back to the consumer what can be done better, and making them realize the value that yes, if they do make a difference and are willing to be part of paying a little bit more for better technology, for something which is better for the environment, and for maybe bringing about a change in their consumer habit, so that in the long run it benefits everybody, including the consumer, they are willing to be part of the process. So I do feel that the communication is not only backward towards with your suppliers. There has to be very open dialogue even with your consumers when you're asking them what we can do better for them and what they can do better for us. That's the only way that we can actually make sure that, because ultimately there is a cost involved to doing things better. There is a cost involved to being sustainable, and every part of the value chain has to bear that cost. So you bring consumers on the journey, and it's working well for us, and I'm sure it can work well for other companies as well.
Yes, surely. You're also brought in an aspect where you need to expand the horizontal collaboration, not just upstream, but also downstream. If you need to significantly capture value and bring in the benefits of sustainability across the chain. Farzana, if I could take up a different aspect with you, for example, one of the things that we would look at responsive, responsible, and procurement with a purpose is the people element. If you look at it from a broader perspective, I'm not just talking about Unilever, but if you look at the broad industry at large, are organizations ready? And more important, are our people ready? If not, what are the kind of interventions you need to make the people more aware about it?
Yeah, so it's all about people, honestly, at the end of the day. Yeah, as Vladimir said, we make commercial relationship with people. As Tia said, we talk about people in terms of bringing that agenda to us and driving it. It is people. So now specific into the organization people, not the consumers or the stakeholders external. I'll be very honest with you, no, we are not ready. We are not ready to break the mold of traditional value-driven procurement organization and this service-only type of supply chain organization overall in the industries. Whether you say FMCG, or whether it's chemicals, whether it's food and beverage, and it's not there. But what certain companies, the leaders, I would say, they are doing is they're stepping up and creating an example and role model for everybody else to follow. So even if today, if you go to professional social medias, you'll see there's a lot of talk about how we are encouraging, how we are really presenting our teams and people in terms of how they are purposeful, how they have different goals and working on social programs under the umbrella of the company. And you'll see whether it's P&G, whether it's Nestle, whether it's Colgate-Palmolive, whether it's Unilever, we are heavily promoting our people rather than our company into the professional social media. And we are trying to be role models for the other organization, tier 2, tier 3, or even our peers to say, look, it's okay to focus on people because at the end of the people who are going to deliver this. Now, readiness, what are the things we need to do? We really need to do revamping the skill set and redesigning our vision and mission in the organization and cascade it down. And I think there's only maybe 5–10% of organizations who have taken that initiative, redefining the vision, redefining the strategy, so that the team gets a clear direction that, oh, it's different from before. Once the vision, mission, and strategy is defined and cascaded, then we move into change management. And that's the cultural change management, mindset change management, way of working change management, and roles and responsibility change management. And there is a lot of workshop that needs to be done within the functions, procurement, supply chain, whatever it is. The last thing that I can say that organizations can do is put clear performance measurement matrix around these changes. Now we talk about, be purposeful, and don't have any KPI on our annual targets around it. Nobody is gonna follow it for that matter, right? So then what we internally can do to help us is really have performance KPIs to be delivered by teams and individuals around those new changed policies and strategies. So there's a few tiers. One, we promote as a new identity of organization. We redefine vision, strategy, and mission, and we really go through change management to bring everybody. Last thing, we put performance measurement matrix so that it sticks to our actions on a daily basis to make this happen. A lot of organizations are not ready, teams are not ready, but we as leaders have a responsibility to be a role model in that there.
Yeah, nicely put, very nicely put. The three layers and how we need to put together. Vladimir, if I were to take the same question to you, in fact, I think we are coming towards the close of the session. So instead of the next question, if I could request each of you to provide a quick summary. We discussed a lot. We discussed about horizontal collaboration, vertical collaboration, being responsive, responsible, we talked about the triple bottom line, we talked about our own people approaches. If you were to bring all of them together, Vladimir, if I could start with you, what would be your final take from what we discussed?
Okay, I think that everything starts from the people or from the humans. Us humans as the consumer first, so that we need to change our mindsets and expect from the corporates more sustainable way of manufacturing products. Secondly, as the company employees and leaders, yes, we also need to start the change from ourselves and drive this agenda upwards and downwards. So my just key word is, okay, this all depends on the mindset. And of course, the KPIs and measurements so that we can celebrate the achievements and recognize people for that.
Yeah. Thank you, Vladimir. Farzana, quick summary of your message.
My message is we need to look long term. We need to be comfortable with disruptions, wanted or unwanted, and we need to take our people in this journey with being comfortable with change and ambiguity. And yeah, let's be good luck and then best of luck to everybody in the team.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Tia, if I could come to you for your closing comment.
Yeah. So I think as a corporate, your responsibility goes way beyond just looking at the traditional aspects of what corporates exist to do, and it's about, especially in the last 1 year, where all our lives have been restricted to mostly 80% of the time talking to colleagues. It's been work for us. You can't meet friends, you can't meet family, you can't step out. It's all pretty. It's difficult to do all of that. So I think it's very important that we give due importance to every aspect. So let the consumer feel important, that he's being heard. What is his expectation about the entire experience of using whatever you're producing or whatever your service is. Let the employees feel wanted and important, that their safety, their requirements, and their good health, mental and otherwise, is important to the company. And of course, as since we are talking about procurement, the same kind of message to the suppliers, that they are an important part of our decision making, and we need them to be healthy financially and in a position to support us. So I think I would just say that coming out and going into several disruptions, it's very important to identify the key chains, and it's the people who make the entire chain, right? And give them the due importance and give them the due credit, and listen to them, and then make changes. It's like an organic organism, and you build as you go along, deal with the disruption. As some of the speakers earlier brilliantly said, that don't let the knowledge about this crisis 10 years later be something lost in the archives. Make sure it's something which is consolidated and to be learned from, and ultimately, yes, I think more or less we all going to be fine. And I'm into that, so I think I'll wind up with that.
Amen. It was fantastic having you. Thank you very much, Vladimir, Farzana, and Tia, for so nicely articulating your views. Today, as we move into a situation where we are focusing on triple bottom line and not just the financial part of it, when we are talking about responsibility and responsiveness, it is time that all of us step up our game and also take the entire chain along. What we are seeing today are pockets of excellence, either both individual or corporates. Some of the larger corporates do have a very humane phase in procurement, but I think they still are in the realm of the few. It is not broad-based into further down the line. There are a lot of challenges when it comes to looking at it down the line. How do we make our entire supply chain sensitive to being responsible, being sustainable, being responsive, and act with a purpose? So these are larger issues that we need to, and hopefully the discussions that we start today would also trigger some thought processes in individuals and help us move towards a more sustainable, more responsible and a more human face to organization. I thank all of you for coming and sparing your